I'm going to begin the second modeling project, the locating block. We can see that it's in millimeters. I'm going to go ahead and start a new file in SolidWorks. Units are millimeters. First thing always, set your units. Next thing you want to always do, come to your options, go to the Document Properties tab. Overall drafting standard needs to be set to ANSI. Click on the dimensions in the tree for a metric file. As per the assignment, metric sketches primary precision wants to be 3 decimal places. Say OK. So the locating block shown in this view, the largest face, the bottom of this block, is essentially, imagine it sitting on the top of a table. The sketch that I'm going to draw for that I'm going to extrude upward, I'm going to create on my top plane. Go to create a new sketch, choose my top plane. I'm going to go ahead and make my construction geometry. Get my inference to origin, draw a horizontal line, right mouse click to end the chain, get my inference to origin, draw my vertical line, right mouse click to end chain. Instead of getting out of line mode, I'm just going to change it from for construction, turn that off. Now I just be drawing regular solid lines. I'm going to draw it just like it is in this view. Start at my origin. You can see that the width of this slot will be 40 millimeters. This would be a 20 millimeter half of that slot. As I look at my numbers next to my pencil, you can see that I'm 20 millimeters-ish away from origin. Now I'm going to draw over, make a line that's roughly 10 millimeters long. I'm going to come up here. My final width of my part will be 70 millimeters. Now I'm going to be looking down here at my coordinates. Remember, these coordinates are from origin. The coordinates next to my pencil are the length of the current line I'm making. So as I pull up, I look down at my coordinates on the lower area of my screen, I get a line that's at 36.73. I'm going to, the overall length is 100 millimeters. This length is 50, so the length I'm drawing right now would be 50. So if I look at the number next to my pencil, I have a line length of 50.88 millimeters. I'm going to just now roughly eyeball things. And I am actually going to completely close this sketch. You will notice there is no solid line here. There's a reason I'm closing this sketch now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and begin dimensioning this sketch. Go to my Smart Dimensions. I have a dimension from my origin to that face of 10 millimeters. I have a dimension from this face or line to that line of 100 millimeters. I have a distance from this line to this point of 50 millimeters. Now I'm going to begin dimensioning my width. Since I've only drawn half of the profile, but I want to dimension the full width, I'm going to use a mode called diameter dimensioning, even though this is not a round part. So I'm going to pick this horizontal line that represents the outside of my part. And I'm going to come down and pick my construction geometry center line. You can see that I have a distance as I'm on this side, the upper half of the center line. As I cross the center line, it takes the value that was there and it doubles it for me. So now I can dimension the full width of a completed part. Place my dimension, and that is 70 millimeters. If you look at my mouse icon, I have an arrow, I have what looks to be a dimension, and then I have a D with a dashed line next to it. That's telling me that I'm in diameter dimensioning mode. If I pick that line, it automatically creates a diameter dimension for me. So it stayed in that mode. If I want to get out of that mode, I hit escape one time. I'm still in a dimensioning mode. You can see that Smart Dimension is depressed gray, and I have a dimension symbol next to my mouse. So once I pick this line, it's not going to give me a diameter dimensioning mode. All I have to do to reactivate it is pick my center line. Now I'm back into a diameter dimensioning mode. This is a value of 25 millimeters. I have a dimension from that point right there across of 40 millimeters. I'm going to hit escape one time. I'm still in a dimensioning mode. I don't want to be doing a diameter type dimension. I want to dimension the length of this line as 30 millimeters. Okay, my sketch is completed. It's fully dimensioned, fully defined. Now I'm going to extrude this into a solid. Exit my sketch. Go into my Features tab. To create something, I use Extruded Boss Base. To make something go away, I would use an Extruded Cut. I want to make something, so I'm going to use Extruded Boss Base. My sketch was already selected, so it began extruding this for me. In this case, I'm going to only extrude up 20 millimeters. So I go to my field, I'm leaving it. My end condition as blind, I only want to go one direction this time. Type in a value of 20 millimeters and hit enter. So I have half of my shape now. Now instead of mirroring the sketch like we've done before, I am going to go ahead and mirror this feature. If I pull my arrows over here or maximize my window, under the Features tab, you can see that I have Mirror a Feature. I'm going to choose this. It's asking me first, what do you want to mirror it about? Instead of using construction geometry, I am going to use a plane. You can see as I highlight my front plane here, that would be the plane that I could mirror this feature about. I'm going to choose that as my plane to mirror about, because there's only one feature in the tree, which is my boss extrude. It chose that for me. You can see the resultant yellow. Once I click the green check, it mirrors the feature and combines the two into one solid. If I bring back up the project, now I am going to create an island upward to create this shape. do that, I'm going to make another sketch, not the same sketch. I'm going to add another sketch. So go back to my sketch tab, hit my create new sketch icon, and instead of choosing a plane, I'm going to choose this face. Okay, so I'm going to create my construction geometry. I want a horizontal center line, and for this particular one, that's all I'm going to create. I go into my line mode, and I want to draw an island that will extrude upward. I'm going to go ahead and choose the corner on the actual solid. You can see that I'm getting my inference for coincident. And I'm just going to trace these edges. You can see that I'm continually picking the actual endpoint of the solid. Now as I pull down here, I could get a midpoint relation established for me, but I don't want that in this case. Myself, I personally stay away from midpoint inferences. They're helpful sometimes, but on this case I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be away from the midpoint, still getting coincidence to the edge, and I'm going to begin drawing over to the same edge on the opposite side of the part, getting a vertical line and coincidence as shown next to the pencil. And once I close that sketch up, you can see that I have a shaded sketch. I want to change the color of this component right now. Hovering over it, right mouse click. It looks like I need to get out of the sketch first. So I'm going to say exit sketch. It's difficult to see the sketch lines on the edges of the part. So since I've exited the sketch, hover over my solid, right mouse click, pull down my appearances. I'm going to pick part 4 here, and I'm going to change the color of this sketch to something like, or this solid to something like that. If I go to edit my sketch, you can see that I have fully defined black lines, everything but this one line. When I drew those sketch lines, they are defined as being tied to the edges of that solid. They don't need any dimensions. They don't need any other relations that are then what has already been established. But I do need to establish a dimension for this line. If I look at my project over here, turn my part to be the same. From the back edge is 10 plus 20 millimeters. This sketch, or this line, wants to be 30 millimeters from this line. As I'm in my sketch, I go into smart dimensioning mode. I'm going to pick this line here. Get a value of 28.973. I'm going to type in 30 and hit enter. You can see now that the sketch is completely defined. All the sketch entities are black. That sketch is completed. Going to go back to my features tab. I want to add to what's already there. So I'm going to use extruded boss base. Choose it. It's telling me to either pick a plane or pick a sketch. I'm going to branch out my tree, pick my sketch number 2. You can see that it is wanting to extrude upward for me. The full height of my part, as shown in the drawing here, is 40 millimeters. This length is 20. 40 minus 20. This length wants to be 20 millimeters high. I'm going to go ahead, it's already there, but just type in 20 millimeters. This box, merge results, should be on by default. I'm going to leave it on, hit my green check mark, say OK. You can see that I have added to the first solid that was there. If I go into my display styles and I turn on hidden lines visible, you can see that there is no solid line running right here. There are no hidden edges. This is one complete solid. If I go back into my boss extruded, which is the upper portion here, I right mouse click and I say edit feature. If for whatever reason merge results had been checked off and I click OK, now I am getting two separate solids. One there and one there. If I go back to my hidden lines visible, you can see that there is a solid line right here. There's a hidden line right there. That's representing that there are two separate solid entities on the screen. That is not what I want. I'm going to go back into Boss Extruded 2, edit the feature, make absolutely certain that merge results is on. Say OK. Now you can see that we have one solid feature. The whole point of showing that was just to show you that you want to have merge results checked on. And if it's not, go back and check it on. I go back to my shaded display, you can see my solid. The next thing to do is to cut away this slot in this part. To do that, I'm going to draw a sketch on this face, create a rectangular sketch, and cut away what I don't want there. So I'm going to go into my sketch tab. I'm not adding to an existing sketch, I'm creating a new sketch. I'm going to choose that face right there to create my sketch upon. I'm going to draw some construction geometry, a vertical line with coincidence to origin, and I'm going to end that chain and change away from creating construction geometry to just now drawing regular line geometry. This slot wants to be symmetrical, taking the middle out of this upper area. So I'm going to draw a sketch and I'm going to mirror it. Going to work from that point right there. You can see that I'm getting coincidence to the edge on the solid. Pull a line down, pull a line over to my center line. You can see that this sketch entity is already black. It was created with the relation of coincidence to this edge, but this entity and that entity are still blue. They need to be defined somehow. I am going to go to Mirror Entities in my Sketch tab. I'm going to window those sketch entities. I have three entities that I'm going to mirror, and I'm going to mirror them about that center line. That gives me symmetry to the left and right of that center line. So now as I apply a dimension of 30 millimeters, this will be symmetrical about that center line. I go to Smart Dimension, choose that line, place a value of 30 millimeters, hit enter. Both of these turn black. They're now defined. Now I have to define down a length of 15 millimeters from there to there. I'm going to pick that line, tell it to be 15 millimeters long. You can see now that this sketch is fully defined. All the entities are black. I'm completed with that. I'm going to exit my sketch, go to my Features tab. This time I want to cut something away. I am not going to use extruded boss base. I'm going to use extruded cut. You can see that I get this yellow solid showing what's going to be created. It defaults my end condition to blind. I want my end condition to be through all. I click OK, and it cuts away the shape, and this part is completed.